Uh, Welcome to the show, Indian Food and Football Show. And today we have the draws out for the FIFA World Cup 2026 qualification, Asian Zone qualification. And India, who are currently in round two, uh, was in currently who were in round two, has got their group. It consists of Qatar and it has Kuwait with India and uh, winner from Afghanistan Mongolia team will be joining them. Winner from that match. So we have with that for the discussion we have Arunava Chaudhary with us. Arunava, welcome to the show.
Thank
Arunava,
you.
your first reaction when you saw the draw and another thing is that Asians Games draw is also out. Your take on both the draws, men's and women's both. So well, first welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shan, for having me back on Indian Food and Football. And good to be back and good to be talking in English after a long while. And see, the first feeling was I was happy with the draw because I think if you look at the groupings, it could have come much tougher. To some extent, it could have come easier. These are all teams that we've played over the last 4 or 5 years. So there's no unknown factor to us in it. But there is a but in my feeling because Qatar might be one of the weaker ones in pot one, surely. But they have Carlos Queiroz as their coach. They're rebuilding after the World Cup. They still have something to sort out with us in regard to the last World Cup qualifiers and where we drew Qatar and Doha goalless at the Al Saad Stadium. I happened to be there in that game. Lovely match, lovely evening. And Kuwait seems to be a team we're going to be playing regularly now. Who I felt, if I'm very honest, who were as good as India in the SAF final, and who looked more polished on the ball. So, and we have to be honest to ourselves. In 90 or 120 minutes, we didn't beat them. It was actually a draw at home. And we
Right.
will open against Kuwait away. So from that perspective, that's a tough one because I think Kuwait is one of the strongest, if not the strongest team in that pot three, who we could have gotten. Then there is either Afghanistan or Mongolia. I would love to have Mongolia, to be honest, because Afghanistan, again, in the last qualifiers were also part of our group and we were not able to beat them away and needed a lot of luck to beat them in that bubble competition in Qatar. So our aim needs to be to reach round three. I think there's no doubt about it. We don't need to speak about anything else. India needs to get into that third round of the Asian qualifiers for the FIFA World Cup 2026. But this group is something which could pose us challenges because there's one question which I think nobody can answer. In March and June, will a certain Mr. Sunil Chhetri still be there? Or do we have to bank on another striker?
That would be very, very interesting, actually. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So, Unavuda, what my assessment when we got the draw, I think the first team of the group, I think from the pot A, from the pot one, we've got the draw we liked. I think I expected yesterday we were discussing Qatar, Oman, and UAE were the three top favorites among Indian football fans, and we got one of them. And from pot three, I think we didn't want Kuwait. Actually,
What did I tell you last night in our Candid Football Conversation podcast? Who are we going to get from pot two? For pot three?
Kuwait. And that was bang on. When I saw that name, no, that was bang on. But very, very interesting now. I think we have to understand one thing that this group. I totally agree with you. This group is really tricky and it will be very difficult. I think it will be not so easy. People may find it very easy, but I think this is a very tricky group because our away from. I think we discussed yesterday also and the day before also regarding our away form is a big concern, and it will depend on our performance on the basis of away form. We will go to the third round or not because this is the first time if we go through. I think this is the first time if we go to the round three. I think before this we have never went to round three. We have a good chance, but it is nothing done and dusted till now until it is played because you know that Afghanistan is a very pretty, a tricky team in Afghanistan and Kuwait in Kuwait. So that two games I think would be a very crucial for our journey, and we have to we are expecting nothing less than a third round for us for our team, but it will be really tough. One of the before we go in more details about the qualification and everything, your take on the Asian Games football, how the draw there? I think you would be happy with the Asian Games draw, football draw.
I think of the three draws, I thought the women's draw is most probably the most favorable to us. We didn't get China, North Korea, Japan, or South Korea in the draw. We ended up with Thailand and Chinese Taipei. Of course, ranking wise, they're better than us, but I think
Both of them.
yeah, unlike in the men's, Thomas Dennerby will get quite a bit of time, and he can use these um, Asian Games matches as preparation for the Olympic qualifiers. So from that perspective, I think India can top that group. There's that possibility if our girls are able to. Will be able to get through that. And in the men's, China, to me, are the top team in that group, surely, because of home advantage. They're already preparing, so they will put out a good team. Bangladesh, to me, is a dangerous one. Last time around, they beat Qatar to get into the round of 16. So therefore, but Bangladesh will have the same problem as us because Basundra Kings potentially will miss some of the players because of whatever competition they will play, likely the AFC Cup. And Myanmar, again, it's all away. So, it depends on how we settle. And our team, I don't know who our team is. We discussed it yesterday on Candid Football Conversations. And guys, if you want, watch it. I mean, it was quite an insightful discussion in regard to how and who would be in the squad because there's too much of football in the month of September. So there's a lot of clash in the men's game. And is it going to be more of a young reserve side going into the competition, or is it more of a experienced team going into the competition? I think it's not very clear at the moment. So therefore, we'll have to wait and watch what happens. But I would think if I look at all the three draws, I think that the women's draw looks to me potentially the easiest. And yeah, despite not being that tough, but I think the World Cup draw is actually the toughest in my opinion.
So, do you think one of the one thing I think I'll go to the questions. I think many of the questions are we have already started. So, one of the do you think that one important factor what I feel is that this Asian Games scheduling will be a big issue for AIFF coming time. Yesterday we have discussed in a long way in our candid football conversation in both urban foot and sports coverage. So, but something what I feel is that India would need a Akash Mishra because they would need Jackson Singh to play for Indian team in the Asian Games. But will they get it? Because Igor would be wanting them, and already we know that Sunil Chetri, Gurpreet Singh Sandhu, and Sanjay Singer will be also part of that team. So do you think AIFF will have their job? Will have a tough job getting them because clubs have the right actually to stop them because you know that we can't do anything if club stop them. So you think it will be a very tough times ahead, tough days ahead for AIFF in coming September? Because what I see, it's loads of matches and how they schedule it and how they plan it before the tournament starts. We have done
See,
everything fine till now. We have got in the
yes.
government's approval and everything is done. Now the
see the
ball is in our court.
see the
Now we have to
challenge
do
here
something.
is, yeah, the challenge is, I think, there is no release clause for under 23 players for the Asian Games. So it's at the discretion of the clubs. Now, your Durand Cup ends on the 3rd of September. You go to play the Kings Cup. In parallel to the Kings Cup are the under 23 Asian qualifiers. So that's that. The ISL is supposed to start around that time, right? You have the Champions League, you have the AFC Cup as well. So again, if as I said yesterday, if I was at Mumbai City, I would wish and hope India all the best. But if I'm playing Champions League, I will as Mumbai City want my best team to represent India, right? So therefore, it's a challenge because also, what do? Do you send the best team to the Kings Cup, or do you send a weekend team to the Kings Cup and send the strongest team to the under 23 qualifiers?
Correct.
That's one. Asian Cup, Asian Games. Uh, it's Asian Games in the importance of competitions is lower than an ISL or a Champions League or an AFC Cup because it's an under 23 competition and there is no need to release players for that. So therefore, that's why federations were asked to send a list of 50 players so that if the first 5, first 10, maybe first 20 players are not available, you still have a pool to pick from of players. And I'm interested to see if the ISL starts around the dates of when the Asian Games are happening and Sunil, Sandesh, and Gurpreet are part of the squad as per the AFF. Would FC Goa release the players? So therefore, the
That was
AFF is in a, therefore, and the under 23s have not played since the last under 23 qualifiers in October 2021 in the UAE in Fujairah. So I remember I was there. It was my birthday on the 30th. The last match India played, won on penalties, but nothing happened. That was the last game with heroics from Dhiraj Singh. So therefore,
yes,
we have to be smart. The AFF has to be smart in their planning and scheduling, and the next 2-3 weeks will be very, very crucial.
very, very crucial. Acha, one of the, I think Chiranjit has a question for you. I don't think Afghanistan will play home games in Afghanistan. I
No,
think
they have not. They
this
they will play. They normally play somewhere in Central Asia.
most likely to play in Central Asia. So Barney Ross is saying India versus China football game is called the Art Derby because the two countries having a combined population of 2.8 billion people. So Art Derby will have Asian Games will play against China. Do you see fancy any chance of India pulling up an upset over China in football? Because Chinese football has gone through a very tough time in recent past. If you see China's performance, has not they're not able to match their performance in the early 2000s where they were and currently where they are. And do you think India can pull up some surprise in that match? You think?
In a 90-minute match, anything is possible. The issue is that China already is preparing with its under 23 team for the Asian Games. Right? It's happening in Hangzhou. So therefore, they have an advantage, and we don't know who. As I said earlier, we don't know who our team is. Right? So therefore, that question remains. Where who is going to be part of that India under 23? So when we know, then we can go into details. If I go in with the preparation that the Chinese will put in, and if I look at the preparation that we are putting in, very difficult, very tough for us.
Very, very difficult. I think one thing I would like to highlight here because the AIFF is saying Clifford Miranda is most likely to take charge of the AFC Under 23 Championship, which is in the early part of September. And what I'm hearing, Asian Games the team will be taken by Igor Stimac.
Yeah.
So again here, do you think there will be see all the coaches have different vision, and player have to understand the vision. Why don't we give Igor Stimac an under 23 team in AFC Championship itself? Again, he would be coach. There will be again change of mind, change of health
No,
there
no, no, because it's a clash of dates. No, the AFC under 23 is happening at the same time. It's happening in that FIFA window.
with the Kings Cup.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. But do you think Clifford Miranda was, if you want Clifford, you should give him the job right now itself because
See, my question is again, as I said, we don't know who the squad is, right? And it looks like to me that Igor most probably will pick the strongest team for the Kings Cup, and some of the players from the Kings Cup will then go to the Asian Games. So, which again, does it make sense? Should you not have planned with one team which plays both the under 23 Asian qualifiers and then goes into the Asian Games? Again, that's, you know, foresight, I think, is would have been a good thing if it was there.
Acha, Victor Trumper says here, Shayanda Unamada, do you think India can win dominatingly against Kuwait or even get a win considering we won in penalties? What is your speculation against the match against Qatar? Unamada, your take on this?
We did not, again, dominating Kuwait is, I think, out of the question. I think both the teams are somewhat even. And if I look at the technicalities, Kuwait to me looked better than India in the final that I saw. Um, that's the honesty. They just didn't finish off their chances. Otherwise, who knows? And therefore, as I said, to me, Kuwait was the worst possible team I feel that we could have gotten from Pot 3 out of the with recent experiences. That's my concern. And against Qatar, at home, India is a power. Again, can we beat a top Asian side? That is going to be the challenge. We drew them away. We played a very defensive game. Let's be honest about it. Qatar, if they score their chances 5-6, 7-0 would have been normal, but they didn't score that day. And we actually even had a chance towards the end with an Udanta counter. So therefore, Qatar is stronger than us. We don't need to kid ourselves. But at home, who knows? I would love us to score an upset. But reality is that's a stronger team, and Kuwait is as good or as bad as India.
Correct. One of the, I think, Manish Shekhawat is saying we can top the table. Your take on this? Can we top the table?
No. Our aim has to be finishing second. Simple as that. We don't need to discuss finishing top. The aim has to be finished. If we by chance finish top, great. But for me, finishing second and getting into the third round, that needs to be our ambition. So therefore, I feel winning against Kuwait, winning against Afghanistan at home, and potentially drawing Afghanistan, Kuwait at home, those 8 points need to be our target. If we can get that done, we are sorted.
Correct. Barney also saying, what is more important, Asian Games or keeping your players safe or let them nurture with the schedule? What is more important?
See, keeping your players safe is always the most important thing, right? So that they're fit and all. And you realized it in the SAF final, 9th match in a short space of time. That was, it was always going to be tough. And nurture with the schedule, yeah. But who? Again, I still don't know who's the squad, who's going to be in there, right? And it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense to pull in an Akash Mishra or a Jeekson Singh. They should be playing senior national team. Give other even Sunil, in my opinion, still, to me is it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense to give Sunil. Why not take Ishan Pandita and give him that chance and say, Ishan, you lead the lines now. We are not preparing ourselves. Igor Stimac did not use the June window to prepare a second line of attack. If, God beware, if Sunil by any chance gets injured, we have a huge problem. Because even the weakest teams in Asia are going to be tough for us to beat, because who's going to score the goals?
Correct. Because we have seen this happening. It requires a Sunil Chhetri to bail us through against Bangladesh, or else our team. It is evident if you see. Abhishek Banerjee is saying that pot 2 scheme has backfired. This is
Thank you, Abhishek. This is what I've been saying to people like Shayan, that this pot 2 fascination is utter rubbish.
No, favorable, if you would have put in favorable.
Draw is not favorable. Draw is whoever comes.
But if
what
are we
talking?
Would have been pot 3, we would have got Uzbekistan.
What have been doesn't matter.
That would.
It doesn't matter.
That would be easier.
It does. No. But Kuwait. Do you think Kuwait is an easy team? Kuwait is a pushover, and Afghanistan, especially. That is my point. In this group, India needs to finish second, but we could finish last. And nobody could say anything as well. No. I'm just saying.
Third, I think
If
it's possible.
Afghanistan plays its full diaspora squad from Germany mainly, right? The Dutch boys, the American boys, the boys in Scandinavia. Do we stand a chance against a team, a third, fourth, fifth division team from Germany? No, we don't.
No, no,
So
no,
this
no. We
group
don't
is
have.
tough. This group is tough. And that is the whole, that's why this whole fascination. Let's get into pot two. Of course, yeah, you could have, Uzbekistan, again, you could have gotten tougher teams.
Yes,
But
much preferred.
this is as tough as it can get. You know, it would, to me,
Oh no, if we are not able to finish second in this group, we don't deserve to be in round three. This
that
is
was
this is, this is
clear.
a reality.
But I'm
This is
but
reality. We have
but
to
I'm
accept
telling
that.
you, but our home and away form is
It's a
a
concern.
day and night issue. Is a day and
No,
night
that is I
issue.
agree. Totally
So
agree.
that is my
Because
concern. That's why this, and that's why Abhishek to me is right, because I've said this from the start. This whole pot two fascination, this ranking has no value, because you saw Kuwait was ranked 143. Kuwait was as good as India. As good as India.
yes, I agree. I think that was the
So
worst possible we could have got. Actually, we were discussing yesterday also. Or
that's what I
Malaysia
told you,
would have
na.
been.
You were dreaming, as I call it, La La Land, na. ये होगा वो होगा ये होगा भाई नहीं होगा ना.
At least one
Draw
of
is
the
not
draws we
a
have.
draw is not
Qatar.
you can choose.
But Qatar we got at least we got in Qatar. We were discussing yesterday. It would have been,
But
I
is
think,
is
better off.
Qatar is Qatar that easy that you think?
No, it's not easy. I'm not saying easy. I'm saying it's better than playing against Japan and Korea. That too, you have to accept.
I would have liked to have played a Japan and Korea going into the Asian Cup.
But don't you think, Unoda, that playing Qatar in Qatar before the Asian Cup, where in Qatar only we will play the Asian Cup,
No,
that would give
aren't we
our
playing
player a
Qatar
big
at home? I think we're playing Qatar at home. We're playing Kuwait away.
Kuwait away and Qatar home. I'm saying
Uh,
playing against Qatar. Don't you think that it will help us before the Asian Cup? They are a good team. They have got a Almoez Ali. They
see,
have got
see
a
the point with Qatar is it could be good or it could be really bad, because it's the final game, big game, before we go into the Asian Cup.
and they are going through a very tough time. What I'm hearing that Qatar
They are
football
going
has.
to a tough time. They've got Carlos Queiroz. He'll sort them out in the next few weeks. Mama, they're playing CONCACAF Gold Cup. They're playing in North America. They're playing in a much, much tougher competition than what they have in Asia.
No, I agree. And they are doing it quite well. And they've got in a very good coach. I think the coach who has been very successful. If you see his track record in Asia, he's one of the successful coaches in Asia. So let's see what happens. I think Agreeb says Qatar match away is perfect setup before Asian Cup. Top team game experience away. No, away now at a home হবে bhai. Agreeb, that will be a home game
If
for
I'm
us.
not wrong, it is a home game, but it doesn't matter. We're
Home.
playing a top team in Asia. That's a good one. That is what we want. That's what we need. Playing against Mongolia, Bangladesh, Nepal has no value, because Australia and Uzbekistan is, Sunil said it yesterday in 420 grams clay. This is a different world. This is a different kind of preparations are needed. So that's the point, right? So that's why if we want to get into the round three and have an outside chance of qualifying for the World Cup.
Outside chance. Do you think India has any chance to qualify? Our tagline says
Why not?
any chance.
Again, if the government tomorrow says we get OCI in, we are sorted. I think we can qualify for the World Cup. Correct. That is the point, because everybody else is doing it. That is the big change that we need. So therefore, let's see. I think it's a tough group, and we have to get out of that group. That's the first step. And we should not, all this pot 2, pot 3 for us doesn't make sense, because we are not that good. We are not. Again, if you look at the teams in pot 2, the top teams in pot 2, we are with Uzbekistan in the same pot. In the Asian Cup, they are pot 2, we are pot 4. So we need to be realistic where we stand. With all that has happened, I flew across and watched India in the SAF semi-finals and final. But I know where we stand. I don't need to. If I BS myself, it doesn't make any sense.
Correct. Victor is agreeing with you. He says, thanks. I also had the same view with Orunoda. Kuwait we defeated was much weaker. The World Cup qualifiers will be much different game and the stakes are much higher. So obviously, the level of that
Kuwait
competition will be
wasn't
higher.
weaker. Kuwait, I still feel Kuwait was the better team on the night in the
On the
final.
final, they were better team, but in the group stage game, we were better team. If you see the both the
So,
games,
and but then it's a 50-50, right?
yeah,
So
50.
that's
I'm
what I'm
saying it's a
saying.
50
So therefore, and this was in India.
in India, right?
How are we going to play in Kuwait City? That's our open. So our tricky part in this qualifier is
Hmm,
we play Kuwait away and then Qatar at home. That is
correct.
that is the trickiness of this whole draw.
Ognif says most Indian players in Mumbai and Mohun Bagan will play AFC away and home, which allows players to get experience, pressure, and allow players to get up to as they mostly spend together with clubs. So he's saying they will be also part of this competition of the continental competition. So they would get the required exposure. So one of your take on this basically, this is a very important point Agni was written because very much needed because but I'm very much interested to see what happens to Akash Mishra. Will he be playing for Mumbai City FC in the Champions League or he will be playing for India in the Asian Games? And I think that is something.
See, there are two things. One thing is international exposure is always good. Champions League, AFC Cup, both will be good for our boys. Also, um, picking AFC Champions League and AFC Cup over Asian Games will happen. Whatever AFF will try to do, if they don't do it, then it says that the leadership at the clubs is weak, in my opinion. Because if I'm running a club, I'll ensure I have my best players because I'm also paying the salaries. Don't forget that the AFF is not paying the salaries of the players. The salaries of the players are paid by the clubs around the world. It doesn't matter if it's the English FA or the German DFB or AFA in Argentina. The players play for the clubs, and I always say African Cup of Nations, Asian Cups are good example that players who play in the top leagues in Europe, right? They pick their clubs over their countries. Yunmin Song has come into the last 2-3 Asian Cups always one day before the tournament. African players have opted out. Japanese boys have opted out not to play the Asian Cup, but to stay with their clubs. So that is a reality.
I agree with you. This is something we have to accept it. Acha, Ogdeep says we have this time also. I think this is a point one of the we should say the World Cup qualifiers has time till June. I guess Asian Cup experience in Jan will help and we will have much time to prepare. But Ogdeep, I think by that time we will already play two games
Exactly. So that's the problem, na? And your
and the
first two
most two
games are, I
important
think,
games.
and the two
Most
toughest games, na? Kuwait away and Qatar at home, right? You have to have a result. If India stand there, that if we stand there with 0 points, ego too much goes. The new coach in March without 0 points and taking on Afghanistan is under huge pressure, right?
so
So
do you
therefore,
think
yeah.
what is the realistic approach now for the first two games? What do you expect from the in terms of points? I think points play a very important role in this qualification game. What are
See,
the what would
against Kuwait, you have to try and see against Kuwait, you have to see that you get points.
a draw?
Yeah, at least a draw. Ideally, you win. I think if you can win against Kuwait, that would be the best to happen to you. Um, that's the challenge. Against Qatar, as I said, I would love to see a draw at home. But again, it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge that you have to see that what can you do. So yeah,
So one of
that's
the we will be playing more of games right now. Now the so that before that we will be playing Merdeka Cup. Before that again Kings Cup. So we will be under that match because that match practice, match preparation. We had already spent 1.5, 2 months with the team. from May. May it started with May, it end on July 4th. So we are all only there's a 1 month gap right now for the Durand Cup. After that, again team will get assembled. So we are getting that time to prepare. I have not seen Indian team get so much time to prepare for a World Cup qualifier also or Asian Cup also. Because I remember the same year last time in 2019 Asian Cup.
But
I
I'll
remember.
give you the counter. I'll give you the counter argument. The September, October, November windows, you will have most probably 5 days to prepare your teams. And if
Yes,
I go by the
but
logic of Mr. Steemach or even the logic of a Sunil, you need this current lot needs longer camps. No one has answered this question. Why do you need longer camps? Is it then a question of are the players not in the right level of fitness? Are they not in the right state of mind? Are they not good enough for international football that they need so long to prepare for a tournament? Right?
this is the this is the topic I have also asked many of the ex national team coaches, and they told me that it is very important to get them together because then only the coordination comes. And I even asked them that
If the
do you think
coordination doesn't come automatically, then the question arises: is are the players then good enough to be wearing an India shirt?
no, no. Then I asked them that why you think it is why because FIFA doesn't allow you to give so much time for a national team preparation. If you see, I gave this example also that if you see other teams, they come directly to the join the team directly in the competition. The player comes directly from the club and joins them in the competition. Right now, you also gave an example of a player from Korea. So then they
The
said me
World
that
Cup.
our player.
Look at the World Cup. The World Cup this year. Normally, teams prepare 2-3 weeks for a World Cup. This year, most teams prepared 5 to 9 days, because it was in the season. So the point is, again, we want to be part of the global football ecosystem. We want to be part of all the top competitions in Asia and the world. Then we have to abide by these rules. And again, it is. I also look at the ISL side of things. You have to finish your league at some stage, right?
Correct.
If the league doesn't run, where will the players get their salaries from? Let's say we shut down the ISL for 1 year. The players don't get salaries. ठीक है? खेलेगा India के लिए?
No, the allowances are not that much that a player will risk that. A player allowance, daily allowances given by AF is bigger amount. I'm not telling about the amount publicly, but
It doesn't matter what the amount is. That the federation gives allowances is good enough. That doesn't matter. They get enough salary from their clubs. These national team players give more allowances to the youth players, right?
no,
So
I'm not saying that because if you are not getting the ISL salary, then this money is not good enough. No?
yeah,
I'm saying that.
so
The
so
one of the I think he has a question for Victor. He's saying Arun Foot, don't you think Igor is valuing short term wins or doing best as his hands are tight, playing Sunil all along while not preparing a long term prospect? Is he being selfish?
of
He
course
knows
every
that.
coach is selfish. Every coach in the world is selfish. At senior level, you are always looking at the next games. Now, of course, we're talking now about the Asian Cup. We're talking about the matches in Qatar in next January.
Correct.
So the
Aditi is saying,
point, huh.
yes, yes, please, oh no, please.
So the point here is he's playing. There are two reasons. I think Sunil wants to play because Sunil has not had enough time at the club, and Sunil is at a fitness level which is scary to say the least. He's so good at the moment. He's so good, Sunil Chetri. I think he's the second fittest player in the team after Changte, being by far the oldest player. And yeah, we did not work on a plan B, and now in September, October, November, you will even more work on your plan A. And the question is again, how are we going to work on this?
Correct. The Aditi is saying India can qualify because Qatar we draw and somehow we lose 1-0 and we beat in Kuwait, so we can qualify for. World Cup. Possibilities are there. Proud moment for India. One of the
See,
it
if
reminds me of
if
my
if
2001 days. This
if if
comment.
if if that is there, yeah, great. But my point is again, how did we again? Were you there in Doha that night? No, you weren't, right? I happened to be there and watching it live. They were all over us. We played a highly defensive game.
And
Igor's
Gurpreet
team
Singh
had
Sandhu played game of his life.
excellent game by Gurpreet, and the finishing of the Qataris was just pathetic. I mean,
The
one Sunil, one Sunil
I
Chetri again, and this has actually saved us also the last month. All these victories, all these victories. If Lebanon had a striker who could score goals, if the Kuwaitis had a striker who scored goals, I would have liked to have seen how we would have done. That is that is the reality. So therefore, we should be thankful we have Sunil, who is bailing us out again and again, and that is where we stand. And therefore, let's be humble, but let's be ambitious as well.
correct. Acha, if you see, if we get round three and even we lose there, we have chance till round five, ocean qualifiers. This time qualifiers are made in
See,
such a way.
see.
Not
The
the
point
matches.
is
If you
for
go to the
the point is let's get to round three first. We've never been to round three, right? Let's not get carried away. Let's not get again. I live in reality. I don't again, as I say, I don't live in dreamland or la la land or whatever. So therefore, I would love to see us in the World Cup, but I know how tough it is. And even though it's 8.5 spots, let's first of all get to round three. Once you're in round three, then you can think about, okay, can you finish maybe third in the group? Can you finish maybe whatever, to get to that level? But at the moment, even if we get to the third round, we will be one of the weakest, if not the weakest team at that level.
correct, correct. Acha, Lord basically saying the point with pot two was to escape through our round three and play 10 games against Asia's best. Means he's saying that the more if we go to round
That
three,
logic,
the chances are.
no,
Yes, yes.
no,
Oh, no.
I'm not saying that. See, pot two, Abhishek said it rightly. At the end, by getting Kuwait, your whole pot two logic didn't work. And by getting also potentially, if we get Mongolia, lovely, because that's a team we can beat twice. If we get Afghanistan, they'll be challenged for us in both the matches. So this whole logic of pot two, again, it's nice, but this ranking, you can manipulate the rankings. They did it
Yes,
under
that
Steven as well, right? We've Puerto Rico traveled for 52 hours. We beat them 4-1. Oh, everyone's jumping up and down. They've traveled for 52 hours. They're not fit. So that is the point. That is where we stand. And that is where, again, we need to qualify for round three. That is to be our aim. But it's not a cakewalk. It will be a tough, tough, tough competitive group.
Onavo sir and Shayan sir, will Afghanistan be more difficult than Shayan is saying than Kuwait?
Don't
Onavo,
think so. I think Kuwait is tougher, but Afghanistan, on their day with the right set of players, they've been a bogey team for us as well. Harun Amiri will play against us, who's played a lot in India. So Afghanistan will not be easy. But I think what I saw from Kuwait, I thought they played good quality football. They just lacked the finishing. So that's why that's why we need to see how we manage.
Agni is saying Kings Cup, Mardeka Cup, Asian Games will Igor will give Igor his playing 11 to 15 players, much needed game time to other players who miss June window. Means players like Mohammad Yasir, player like Ashish Rai, player like Brandon Fernandez, who were not in June window. I think he's saying that.
I don't think so, because I think he wanted, what Igor said after the win was that he wants to now focus on his first 11. I thought the June window would be to try out players, especially the Intercontinental Cup was supposedly a trial and error thing, but now he seems to have settled on a squad. Asian Games will be players who are not even candidates for the Asian Cup squad, because that will be under 23 players who most probably are reserve side players or players who are on the benches of ISL teams. So therefore, that's going to be tough.
Acha, Victor Trumper is saying agree with Orun Foot. Our defeat is a defeat after all. At least we have played against Japan and Korea, we gain exposure. But my question to you, would we have favored better, fared better, I think, if we got the Vietnam group? He's
That's,
saying
I
about
think, the
the
one of the toughest. That's one of the toughest groups in this competition.
uh,
That's
I
even.
think out of the group D, which consists of Oman, Kyrgyzstan, Malaysia, and Chinese Taipei or Timor Leste, I think that is the group. I think the one of the weakest group. Another group, what I feel of the UAE, Bahrain, Yemen or Sri Lanka or Nepal or Laos. I think this group D and group H. Do you think this is the most easiest group of all the lot?
It looks like it.
It looks
Certainly,
like
I
it.
think Group F. I thought Group F will, again, Indonesia most probably will, Brunei, and if you've got Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia plus Iraq, that to
Yes,
me looks like, like
group
the
of
group
death.
of death, because that is, I mean, even Indonesia as a as position 4, as F4, they could top that group. I think Iraq is not. Yeah, I mean, again, we will most probably know where Iraq stands in a few weeks, but I think that's a very, very tough group.
One of the Iran, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Hong Kong in Group E. Hong Kong or Bhutan. I think most probably Hong Kong would be only there. So this group, I think this group is also pretty strong
Yeah,
because
that's
Turkmenistan don't go by their ranking. Their playing standard is quite better. I mean, if I see
That's what I'm saying.
Turkmenistan,
That's what I'm saying. That there are a lot of teams in pot two, pot three who are of similar level. In pot two, they've got few teams who are stronger. I think Uzbekistan, Vietnam, most probably are amongst Syria to some extent. Most probably they are the strongest. And otherwise, pot two, pot three are of a similar level somewhat. So therefore, that's why I said pot two, pot three. Yeah, you have to beat. You have to beat two teams to finish second. That needs to be our aim.
priority, right. One of the Ognibi Singh, can Indian clubs have a rule? Maximum 2-3 players will be released per team for national camp in September, October, November window. Then national team can have a good balance. I mean, he's saying there
Used to
should be
happen
a
in the
quota
past,
system.
especially East Bengal, Mohun Bagan used to do it. Doesn't make
Quota
sense
system.
because I think East Bengal, Mohun Bagan used to do it. That's what I'm saying. Um, India needs to have its best team, and India needs to prepare with its best team for the Asian Cup. So therefore, in those 3 windows, Igor will call up the best potential players.
Abhishek is saying now we know why AIFF appointed those astrologers. Maybe the draw would have been favorable with the divine help. The
Yeah, maybe.
astrologer, that fiasco was something different, bhai. That was told in public. Victor Trump Group F, Iraq, Vietnam, Philippines, and winner of Indonesia and Brunei, right? This
Yeah,
this group
it's
is something. It's a pretty tricky group, very tricky group. You never know what can happen from this group. Suraj Krishnan is question for you. He says more you practice together, better coordination. We can't compare with other international teams as they are much more experienced and they are much more skillful and their understanding about the game is better. What he wants to say.
I'm fine with that, but the point is that there is a FIFA calendar, right? There is a FIFA calendar. There's a FIFA system which is followed by 211 countries in the world, right? So therefore, even we, if you want to be part of that calendar, need to follow that calendar, because also the ISL needs to have its time to for its league to be played. Again, we have a 12 team league. Think about if the ISL was a 18 or 20 team league. What would happen then?
Correct. It will be a different thing then. Because it was the league would be get much bigger and much wider. So Ogniv is saying if we get to the round three, I think it means uh, AFC
Yes,
Asian Cup qualification is done. Do you want to Igor to stay another 4 year or some other coach? One of the
another
he's
coach.
asking another coach. Pretty bold statement by Unoda. I think now if you I think if you do any survey right now in India,
It doesn't matter what the survey is. You asked me my opinion. That is my opinion, and I don't care about
why
surveys. See,
the,
because again, it's not a public demand car. It's what's best for Indian football, and that is my opinion. I think that would be better, and it would be better yesterday than tomorrow. So therefore, that is my opinion.
So, then I would rather ask you here that did AFA miss a trick 6 months back when while renewing his contract for another year? They would have gone
They
for the
missed the
new guy.
trick when they was appointed 4 years ago, but that's a different discussion.
That is different. But Onaona, don't you think that uh, before if he leaves before the after the Asian Cup is over, then again for a new coach, as you only said just few minutes back that again we will be playing Afghanistan away, and we have a new coach. Things will look very dicey that time. We will be in a mess
If it
in that
happens, it
way.
happens. Again, there are reasons. I know too much about things, so therefore, which can't be said in the public. But therefore, I would have done it differently. But again, I'm not in charge of the AFF, so that's the decision of the AFF.
Now,
And
the
again, I
Onaona,
don't, and I have my opinions. I don't care what public ka demand hai. It is always what I say is what I think is in the best interest of Indian football. And again, I think the public know enough to be able to have a judgment? I sometimes think no, and that those are the realities. So therefore, you have to think in the best interest of Indian football. A lot of decisions are not taken in the best interest of Indian football. They're taken because of interest of people.
correct, 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 correct. Actually, that is the unique part because we want these truths to come out. It is very, very important because we should not go overjoyed by comments and we generally love people who comment through for the gallery. I think that's very important. One of the what about women's team in Asian Games? Then playing full squad from players in the European clubs. India have a good squad for semi-final for women. Do you think we have the squad to go to the semi-finals in Asian?
No, I don't think we have a squad to go to the semi-finals, but I think we can go to the quarterfinals. I think semi-finals is too much of a ask. Again, as with the men's, I think we're not used to playing at that level. I think we need to play at a higher level. And if we're talking about playing semi-finals, that means we're talking about playing the World Cup at the moment. Are we there at the World Cup? No, we're not.
Oh no, what is your if I ask you, you say women's team is round of the quarterfinals. That's the you think that's the benchmark we should be happy with. What do you think of the men's? Where do you see them?
I think the men's one is a tricky one, but again, likely with round of 16, 3 out of 4 teams potentially could move on. So therefore, I think moving into the round of 16 is a must.
And after that, we don't know what can happen because that's a single
It
game after
depends on
that.
who you're playing, how good, how bad they are. Again, Asian Games standard is a different one. No? It's not a full competition. It's not even Olympics or something where they try to play the best team. So therefore, very, very difficult to judge.
But who knows? India can go to the quarterfinals here. There's a chance. Then.
Potentially, why not? Again, with the right draw, with the right groups, don't know. So therefore, again, I do, and still,
Achha, I think let us remember we could not. Moinak Chakraborty is saying, let us remember we couldn't beat Kuwait
yeah,
twice in both the match within the regulation. We already Aunavada said this thing. I think Moinak, I think you heard this also. Victor Trump is Arun Food. I think you are thinking India is in the same level of Argentina or England. Maybe Indian footballers' adaptability is much lower than Europeans. Maybe that's the reality. Shouldn't be calibrated accordingly. Once he's saying to have a calibration.
I understand, Victor. Very good point. But the point is, football has one system, and we want to be in that system. So therefore, we need to adapt to that system, and our players need to adapt to that system. We need to prepare the players for that. Which again, I go back to other discussions we've had where our grassroots and youth football doesn't prepare the players for bigger things. So that is the challenge. So
Big challenge.
if we want a 1 month camp every time before something happens, your club season is going to get screwed, and it is being screwed this year. Let's be honest, it is messed up completely. And there are Indian realities. You don't want the ISL to happen parallel to the IPL. That's a reality. You let it happen. How many people are going to watch it? Forget live at the stadium. How many people are going to watch it on television or on the stream?
Correct. I agree with you because what we say and what we see in the data, it's something different. Because few of 5 6 days back, a report came out that Disney and Hotstar were not interested to show the online stream because they are not able to get that revenue by share because they have seen a decline in the viewership. We may understand that we are because I remember India playing in SAP Cup, and I was looking through on Hotstar. I was seeing 20 to 25,000 we watching that game. I think uh, in a live stream in a country like India, where a national team is playing, we are having 25,000 watching a game in a streaming platform. How would that streaming platform able to generate money out of it with so much high production cost? That is also a thing which we need to look into. I think story is something different what we think right now. Can we get more competitive India as we strengthen the position right back with Ashish Rai, midfield by Brandon, and Suresh Singh Vanjam and defense by Sana? Unauda?
It depends on how we're playing, who we're playing. As I said, Brandon has its value. Suresh, Ashish, Sana, all of them have their value. It's a question of who the coach wants to play in what position, when and where.
That is very important, Unauda. Very, very important, right? Achha, Unauda, Ogniv is saying, sir, you want Igor. I think you have answered this already. Playing style must be the same if of Igor leaves. Playing style, he's saying
What
about
is
the
what is the
cartoons.
playing style?
He's saying about the passing, not the long
No,
ball.
no.
I think that's a
What
point
is
I think he wants
again?
to make.
Yeah. But what is the playing style? Tell tell me. The whole world talks about playing styles, right? And there are very few teams and nations who have a defined playing style. My playing style as the head coach of the Indian national football team needs to be according to the player material that is available to me.
Correct.
And I have to look at who are my opponents. I need to be attacking against weaker teams. I need to be defensive against stronger teams in Asia. Simple. So this whole playing style discussion is, sorry, utterly useless.
Acha, Blasio Mascarenhas, he says, hi, your views on FSDL setting ISL media rights beat price of 550 crores for 2 years. Is it a fair pricing tag? Oda, I think you are the better person to answer this. Please, go ahead and answer.
If they're going to get 1 rupee, they should be happy.
And most likely we are knowing who would get this bid. Most likely. This is a little bit. I don't think we'll have much of competition in guessing it, but most likely this is. It's a huge high. It's not a fair. It's not a. It's totally unfair price tag, but we can't do because this is something they have. I think most likely the people who are said this award is the winner of this award. So this is. So this.
Listen, this whole, again, how if you know how this works, this whole thing has been planted in the media. But again, you're picking it up. So it seems to have worked. So again, read behind the news. Don't just read something and think it is factually right. Think, use your brain. Don't read something. If people tell you things, just believe it. Don't. Just question. You have to question things if it makes sense, if it's logical or not. That's the only thing I ask you guys for.
Right. Oh, Victor says let's say the ISL grows to 18 to 20 teams, then will the Indian football calendar spill into the IPL slot? Do you think cricket will once again the cap the knees of Indian football if such a clash happens?
See, IPL gives a damn of if football, kabaddi, whatever is held. They listen, they're too big. They care? Who are we? Well, how many people? 21 people listening to this. If we were talking about some rubbish cricket, there would be thousands of people listening. That's the reality of India today, sadly.
Yes, this is the real problem.
Will it spill over? Potentially, it would. It would have to. But there are realities of India with the weather, which is monsoon at the moment, which is heat in April, May. It'll be very interesting. And the thing is, what people don't understand, we don't have the players to fill a 20-team league. Or are we going to play with 6 foreigners or 8 foreigners like the Saudi Pro League? Most probably will be only foreigners soon, right? Then ठीक है. Then shut down Team India, na? Then
Acha, Indian team, Ogniv is saying player position, you think we have a weakness, need of better players apart from number 9? Which position you think is a very concern for us? Barring number 9, he's saying.
mm, see, I think in most positions we have options. I would like to see Apuya in the number 6 position because Apuya is our best midfielder in that holding position. I feel in that position behind Sunil, potentially, I feel Brandon might be better. I'd like to see Brandon in that position. Again, left back Akash Mishra, done. Right back Ashish Rai, yeah, should potentially. But I was positively surprised by Nikhil Pujari. Very, very strong last few matches whenever he played. Let's see.
Let's be hopeful, Onauda. Let's be hopeful. I think we
Yeah.
can do this. Acha, I think, sir, do you think India has a better chance against Middle East teams or South Asian teams like Vietnam, Korea in terms of physicality, fitness, tactical against who we have a better chance? He wants to understand, is it better of playing the West Asian or the East Asian? Example simple.
See, there's a difference. What I saw against Lebanon and Kuwait, we were physically stronger, interestingly, but they were technically better than us,
Yes.
which is very weird. It doesn't make sense. Normally, would have thought they would be physically stronger than us. We would be So my big concern is West or East Asia at the moment. That technically West or East Asian sides are better than us. If it was Myanmar, it was Kyrgyz Republic, it was Lebanon, it was Kuwait, all of them look technically better than us. So that to me is a big concern. Physically, this Indian team is the best ever Indian football team that I have seen. Physically, they are, wow, 120 minutes, and all of them were getting up again and no problems.
But is that do you think Onauda that is that good enough for them, for the team?
No.
They are.
We have focused so much on that physical aspect that our football is getting worse. That is my concern.
That correct.
The priorities are wrong.
Right, right. Acha, Moinak Chakraborty is saying, do you guys think CMAC is very clever to manipulate public opinion in his favor? Various sentimental social media acts by the coach indicates that, isn't it? Hodavda, your talk.
Very well summed up, yes.
Acha. How will you rate the quality of Indian football stadiums compared to Asian standard? Standard of the stadium is saying.
See, if I look at stadiums in Japan, Korea, China, or Qatar, Saudi, UAE, those stadiums are better.
Abhishek says that somebody who spends less time on social media should be the next made the new coach. That may be. Colin
Very
Chelan
well,
is
Abhishek.
saying. Colin Chelan is saying yes, they will win the World Cup. Nothing is impossible. Okay. Okay. So Onauda, to sum up today's discussion, because we are just clocking 1 hour time now. Again, we have a show at 7 p.m. after this Bengal game is over. So Onauda, to summing up this, what do you think? Can India, for the first time in the history, qualify for the third round of the FIFA World Cup qualifiers? Do you think this is the best possible chance we have, or do you think uh, again the same history will repeat itself? We will drop points a team lower than us in the ranking, because last World Cup qualifier, remember in Salt Lake we lose. We somehow escaped a defeat against Bangladesh when I was knowing the coach of Bangladesh national team that time, and Jamie said me that we'll play a good game in Kolkata, and they played really well and took us by surprise. Do you think how can he avoid such gaps? Because that would be very important for us to qualify for the third round. If we drop points against Afghanistan or Kuwait, even we lose against Kuwait, our chances for our aim to go to the third round will be over. So, how do you think India can make it? And your prediction for the Asian Games for the men's and women's sport before we wrap it up.
See, I said that I think you have to win your games against Kuwait and Afghanistan at home. That's your base. Look at upsetting Qatar maybe at home and getting draws against Kuwait and Afghanistan away. Whatever happens, whatever is the standard at the moment, those things are need to be done. Only then we can qualify for the next round. It is possible. It is much more possible than ever before because 18 teams go through. Because if it had been 12, we don't even need to consider at the moment. It would be very, very tough. Now it's 18. It is possible. And we need to get there. Doesn't matter how. The football doesn't matter. The result matters at the end of the day. The result matters. Point. Because if you look at June, July, how we played against teams who were unable to score goals against us. That's why I said in the final, I was talking to people at the final who were standing next to me. I said, it is good that we went behind against Kuwait. We were able to equalize because it showed that we can come back. And therefore, that we get to that level because the World Cup is nice. But more important to me is that we ensure our qualification for the Asian Cup. That's more important. Everything else is a bonus. So therefore, finishing second is the key. Round 3, yeah, great. But we actually qualify for the next Asian Cup in 2027 in Saudi Arabia. That is more important for us. Our World Cup is the Asian Cup. So therefore, that is the key and the most important thing for us.
Correct. So on a lighter note, Victor says just a joke. Arun Foot, do the Indian diaspora in Germany gets angry towards you since you are such a fervent hard critic of cricket, considering it's the third largest soft power after Bollywood and food in India.
We are in Germany, so if we talk about cricket, nobody cares about it. So those at least who are born in Germany, nobody cares about cricket. We're a football country, or they care about handball or ice hockey or whatever. Those who've come, they might care. People know me that I am involved in Indian football, so forget the critic. It's not being a critic. It's cricket has
Ruin other
cricket
sports.
is
Agreed.
Cricket has ruined other sports, yes, on one side, but cricket has worked its way up in the last 40 years, right? So therefore, it's the way there is, and football and other sports need to work their way up, and things need to happen. And again, if these kind of discussions are happening, more people need to follow these discussions, need to be part of these discussions. Again, social media looks like a lot of people are talking about it. How many people are talking and watching football discussions or shows every day? That's a reality, right? We're talking about a few thousand people.
Correct.
So
that also when the transfer market is active then.
Yeah, and we need to grow the community. That's the biggest challenge that Indian football has, and hopefully we will be able to go forward.
We'll definitely do that. Thank you, Onavada, for your time. I think we had a lovely discussion of an hour and few minutes regarding can India qualify for the FIFA World Cup. That was an explanation we wanted to make people understand how things are. The rosy story is something different, and hard facts need to be told to the people. And I think no better person than Onavada Chaudhary to say this because he has been following this game for a long time and 25 26 years and doing this all and all. And I sometimes I ask him what is the real motivation he gets about Indian football. I don't understand what, but something which drives him towards India is something I think that makes me admire him. So thank you, Unavada, to come in the show and share your views. And thank you all for all the viewers who have watched this podcast. I think it's your love and affection. This is most important. We are trying to be different, to get in topics which are relevant for Indian football. I think please do support Arun Foot, Sports Khabri, Curious Harry, and Indian Food and Football because we are trying our level best to discuss topics which are not generally discussed on a regular basis. So do support us, and people who are going through the stream right now, do like, share, and subscribe it. Today, in the comment section, got to see many new people because whom we are not used to see. We got in the comment section, we got some few new people to see. I think that was a good part of the discussion, and hope we have such shows more often. So today, after an hour or so, we will have a live session again with East Bengal's game over against today in the Kolkata League. We'll discuss about against that game, and at 9 and 10 o'clock we'll be again doing a live today because today we have a marathon live planned, and we'll be discussing more about Indian football. So last comment, I think Ogniv is saying last comment. Food life se sanchai. Even last comment is saying food life se sanchai. Yes, that can be done in recent past. So please, Ogniv and everybody who have watched this stream, do like, share, and subscribe, and be part of Indian food and football. And do join us today at 7 p.m. regarding East Bengal games analysis against in Calcutta Super Football League. Thank you. Bye from our side.